In the waters off Wilmington, North Carolina, rests a giant of American naval history. She's 728 feet long, displaces over 44,000 tons, and her 9 16-inch guns could hurl shells weighing as much as a small car over 20 miles. This is the USS North Carolina, BB-55. This episode, we're diving into the extraordinary history of this legendary battleship, from her revolutionary design to her heroic service in World War II, and her remarkable journey to becoming one of America's most beloved museum ships. To understand the USS North Carolina, we need to go back to the 1930s. For nearly 15 years, international naval treaties had prevented the United States from building new battleships. The Washington Naval Treaty of 1922 and the London Naval Treaty of 1930 had frozen battleship construction in an attempt to prevent another arms race after World War I. But as these treaties expired and tensions rose around the world, the U.S. Navy knew it needed to modernize. The North Carolina class would become America's first new battleships in nearly 2 decades, and they needed to incorporate everything the Navy had learned in that time. The USS North Carolina was laid down on October the 27th of 1937 at New York Naval Shipyard in Brooklyn. Her design was revolutionary for American battleships. She was fast, capable of over 28 knots, making her one of the first American fast battleships that could keep pace with aircraft carriers. And this was crucial for the kind of warfare that was coming. She was launched on June 13th of 1940 with Isabel Hoey, the daughter of North Carolina Governor Clyde Hoey, serving as sponsor. Europe was already at war, and everyone knew America might soon be drawn in. The ship was commissioned on April 9th of 1941, just 8 months before Pearl Harbor. The North Carolina represented a new philosophy in naval warfare. Her powerful engines, modern fire control systems, and heavy anti-aircraft armament made her perfect for the carrier task forces that would dominate the Pacific War. After shakedown cruises and training, the North Carolina was assigned to the Pacific Fleet in June of 1942. The timing couldn't have been more crucial. The United States was still reeling from Pearl Harbor, and Japan controlled vast stretches of the Pacific. Her first major action came in August of 1942 during the invasion of Guadalcanal. The North Carolina became the first American battleship to engage in offensive operations in World War II. She provided crucial fire support and, more importantly, protected the aircraft carrier USS Enterprise with her formidable anti-aircraft batteries. On August 24th of 1942, during the Battle of the Eastern Solomons, the North Carolina truly proved her worth. Japanese aircraft launched a massive attack on the American carrier task force. The North Carolina's crew fought brilliantly, her 5-inch and 40-millimeter guns creating a wall of steel in the sky. She's credited with shooting down between 14 and 24 enemy aircraft in this single engagement. One witness described her performance as being like a battleship on fire, not from damage, but from continuous muzzle flashes of her blazing anti-aircraft guns. The Enterprise, which she was protecting, survived the battle largely thanks to North Carolina's defensive fire. The carrier's crew was so grateful they signaled, "Are you all right?" North Carolina responded simply, "Affirmative." But the war was never without cost. On September 15th of 1942, a Japanese submarine, the I-19, fired a spread of torpedoes at the American task force. One torpedo struck the North Carolina below the waterline. The explosion 5 sailors and wounded 20 others. The ship took on over 5,500 tons of water, developed a 5-degree list, and her speed dropped to just 16 knots. What happened next demonstrated the incredible damage control skills of her crew. They counter-flooded, shored up bulkheads, and kept the ship operational. The North Carolina limped to New Caledonia for temporary repairs, then made the long journey to Pearl Harbor for full repairs. She was back in action by November. Throughout 1943 and 1944, the North Carolina participated in virtually every major naval offensive in the Pacific theater. She was at Tarawa, Kwajalein, Truk, Saipan, Guam, Tinian, Palau, Leyte Gulf, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. Her 16-inch guns pounded Japanese positions. Her anti-aircraft batteries protected American carriers. Her very presence boosted the morale of American forces. The crew gave her an affectionate nickname, the Showboat. Some say it came from a Time magazine article. Others say it was because Tokyo Rose mentioned the ship so often in propaganda broadcast. And still others claim it was because the crew put on variety shows aboard ship. Whatever the origin, the name stuck. During her service, the North Carolina steamed over 300,000 miles. She participated in every major naval offensive in the Pacific from Guadalcanal to Tokyo Bay. Her crew earned 15 battle stars, among the highest for any battleship in World War II. The statistics of her combat service are staggering. She fired her main battery in combat operations, bombarding Japanese positions on islands across the Pacific. Her anti-aircraft crews were credited with shooting down or assisting in the destruction of 24 enemy aircraft. She spent 2,339 days in active commission during the war, with 1,000 of those days in combat zones. Perhaps most remarkably, after that single torpedo hit in 1942, she never suffered a major combat damage again. Not a single member of her crew was killed in action from enemy fire after those initial 5 casualties. In a war where battleships were often vulnerable to air attack, the North Carolina's combination of speed, armor, and anti-aircraft power kept her crew remarkably safe. When World War II ended with Japan's surrender in Tokyo Bay on September 2, 1945, the North Carolina was there as part of the mighty fleet that witnessed that historic moment. She had survived the war and helped win it. After the war, the North Carolina participated in Operation Magic Carpet, bringing American servicemen home from the Pacific. Then, like so many warships, she was placed in reserve. She was decommissioned on June 27th of 1947 and berthed with the Atlantic Reserve Fleet in Bayonne, New Jersey. For years, she sat in reserve, slowly deteriorating. By the late 1950s, the Navy planned to scrap her, but the people of North Carolina had other plans. In 1958, a grassroots campaign began to save the ship and bring her home to North Carolina as a memorial. The state legislature appropriated funds, but they needed more, so they launched a public campaign, and the response was extraordinary. School children across North Carolina collected and donated their pennies and dimes. Civic groups held fundraisers. Veterans organizations rallied support. In less than 2 years, they raised the $330,000, enough to purchase the ship from the Navy and tow her to Wilmington. On October the 2nd of 1961, the USS North Carolina arrived at her permanent berth in Wilmington, directly across the Cape Fear River from downtown. Since then, she's been meticulously maintained and restored. She opened to the public as a memorial and museum ship, and over the decades, she's welcomed millions of visitors. Volunteers and staff have worked continuously to preserve her, conducting major restoration projects on everything from her teak decks to her fire control systems. Today, the North Carolina is not just a museum. She is a National Historic Landmark and one of the most authentic and well-preserved battleships in America. Visitors can explore 9 decks, from the bridge where officers commanded the ship to the engine rooms deep in her belly. from massive gun turrets to the crew's cramped living quarters. The USS North Carolina stands as more than steel and guns. She represents the courage of the greatest generation, the industrial might of America during World War II, and the determination of a grateful nation to preserve its history. She's a classroom where students learn about naval history and World War II. She's a memorial where veterans and their families can honor those who served. She's a powerful reminder of what Americans can accomplish when they work together toward a common goal, whether that's winning a war or saving a piece of history. If you ever find yourself in North Carolina, take the time to visit her. Walk her decks, touch her guns, and imagine what it was like for the young men who served aboard her in the most dangerous waters of World War II. The Showboat is still here, still teaching, still inspiring, more than 80 years after she first slipped into the water. The USS North Carolina, a legend of the Pacific and an American treasure.